It's hard to explain what we've experienced when it's so much bigger than us. I guess one thing that I learned when I was there is that my problems and the problems we experience here in the United States are so minuscule compared to everything else out there in the real world. It was very humbling.
So when we went to the poor neighborhood, Independencia, everything is just so much more compact, especially I guess in the city, but it's just really interesting to see that there are that many people that have almost nothing, but they still are like really happy all the time.
Just knowing that we're probably, we're never gonna experience that again, and we're never gonna be able to explain to somebody what we experienced, and we were all just leaving it there, I guess. It's almost like, it's almost like leaving a piece of you behind for me.
So I think the big thing for our DIG committee, specifically the global portion, was to open up to not only just our staff here, but our members in the community, that the YMCA is such a bigger component than even just the Boulder Y or the US delegation, that the YMCA is in 119 countries in the world. Going down to Peru is such an amazing example of what a community YMCA is. And I think that you see that in a lot of YMCAs where they're providing more critical needs, whereas we're providing really great programming and supporting our community and the swim and gym component and school age and day camps and health and wellness, but they're providing needs that are really saving people's lives every single day. And opening up these kids to that, they're now bringing that back and they're sharing with their families and their friends and their community and their school.
So working with the YMCA of Peru was a really great experience in terms of how they set it up for the kids. The students got to experience a lot of different things. So the first was team building, obviously. So they would learn about Peru, learn what we're going to do. They would have dance classes. They would have drum box classes. But it was also in a very safe area, so they're still speaking English. And then as it progressed, we got to experience more and more of the indigenous culture, the culture itself, the language. So we would be in situations where nobody was really speaking English. We'd work at orphanages. And so it felt like as it went on, you get more and more immersed in the experience. And I think that was a really great way to approach it, because it kind of built up to something that the kids were a lot more comfortable doing, as opposed to throwing them to it right away.
Going up to Independencia, which I surprisingly sit back and think, I would say most of the kids would say this was their most impactful, most favorite part of this trip, where they were sleeping on, a hard cement floor for 3 days in a very poor district of Lima, and shoveling cement for 9 hours a day, and just covered in mud and dirt and wearing the same clothes for 3 days, and eating breakfast on a floor, and it was wild. It was just an incredible thing to see the hard work come out of them, and not a single complaint after 3 days of shoveling cement and hauling rocks down from a mountainside.
Pushing wheelbarrows up a hill is hard, but it's something that that will be a really positive experience regardless of the physical outcome, because you think of yourself as a different person afterwards, or at least as you just start to realize that this is the reality in so many of these places.
At first, when we got there, all these kids just came up and ran to us, and they just hugged us because they were just so excited to see people other than the people that took care of them or their peers in the orphanage. And a lot of people cried about that. It was really moving, especially for me too. It was crazy to see kids there that were in these situations that were not so happy, that the kids were so happy themselves with how little they really have.
I think it was very humbling, but an incredible experience for them to just play with the kids, just be present with them and give them time and attention and individual time, which is what the staff at the orphanage said the kids really don't get. Their ratios are really high. They don't have a lot of individual attention and time, and so for the kids, for 2 hours just to play with one kid, I think it went a long way. From the first meeting, where it was pretty silent in the room for an hour and a half, and we were just digging to get conversation out of them, to be in a situation where at the end of the trip and the nightly chats and hearing them talk about the impact this was having, to have kids just, all of them, just in tears and very emotional about this experience.
The most difficult part was definitely leaving for me. It was really hard. I didn't think I would be that sad. Building that wall was physically very hard, but it's pretty heartbreaking to leave.
I thought I would have goals, or I did have goals before, and we wrote on them. We wrote what we thought what we would experience. But the trip is so much bigger than something you can even imagine. And so my goals were completely exceeded.